Coffee, coffee, coffee. Now with Dunkin Donuts announcing plans to return and expand across the country, many Canadians are now wondering what that will mean for the longtime king of the Canadian coffee market. Of course, I'm talking about Tim Hortons. Now, Tim Hortons has decided to go on the offensive. It's announced the opening of 80 new stores, renovations to 400 stores, and they've also announced one major policy change. They're going to scale back their use of the temporary foreign worker program. They're going to stop lobbying for the temporary foreign worker program. Instead, they say they want to hire 10,000 local workers. Let's now go to the chief corporate officer at Tim Hortons. Duncan Fulton joins us now. Mr. Fulton, welcome to the show.
Morning, Elias. How are you?
Are you getting ribbed over at the head office there that your name is Duncan and Dunkin Donuts is coming back to this country?
Story of my life since I've been 2 years old. So, yeah.
All right.
For
well,
sure.
We're happy to have you on here. So I've announced changes off the top here. I want to get into the why with you. Why the moves? Why the changes?
Yeah, let's go through them. So we run on a 2 to 3 year pipeline where we're looking everything out 2 to 3 years. In our test kitchen in downtown Toronto right now, the team is working on new menu items that we're going to be launching in 2 to 3 years from now. So, we announced 80 new restaurants this year. Those have been in the works for a couple of years. You can imagine, finding the land, working with the landlord, setting it up, getting permits. Those are things you turn around overnight. So 80 new restaurants. We have about 12 of those already open. About 50 are opening in the coming couple of months, the rest at the end of the year. In Quebec specifically, we have about 14 new restaurants, about 50 renovations. One of the big things there that I think most people don't know is it's our local restaurant owners that pay for that. So we have 1,500 Canadians that own 4,000 Tim Hortons across the country. They're the ones that pay to build them. They're the ones that pay to renovate them every 10 years. They're the ones that hire plus or minus 30 people per restaurant and make payroll. They're the ones that are giving back into the community.
Okay, so and I get that. I get that, Duncan. I guess that leads me to this question. Are they also then, at least part of those owners, also to blame for some of the ills? Because I would say that when it comes to Tim Hortons, and again, I criticize because I love, when it comes to Tim Hortons, what I have found is that it really simply depends on which one you go to. And I've been to Tim Hortons that simply do not come close to any standards. And then I've been to ones that I'm like, my goodness, this is lovely. So, you mentioned those local owners. Clearly, you're reacting to something. I've seen this stuff. Sometimes it's vitriol online from Canadians about how the chain is being run right now. So do some of those local owners need to do a better job to live up to Tim Hortons standards?
Look, I spent a lot of time with our local owners, and to a person, they wake up every morning and come to work to do a good job in their restaurant. Now, the reality is if, we serve 4 million people a day, it's 10% of the country every day is coming to Tim's. Even if we do a perfect job 99% of the time, which we don't, that's still 40,000 people a day that we're pissing off because we got something wrong. It's just the nature of the huge volume of who we are. So we're pretty humble about it. And I think our owners and us are waking up every morning saying, we can always be better and we have to do better. The thing that we announced this week, which we think is important, is a plan to hire 10,000 more local Canadians to come work in our restaurants. Part of that is just natural turnover, like any part-time job. You have people that come and go. Summer, there's usually a surge. We know that in the fall, there's students that go back to school. So there's a need. There's also all those new roles for all those new restaurants. But you'll see on TV and on social media a big campaign for us to add, 10,000 local hires into our restaurants.
Now, how are you going to do it? Because it wasn't too long ago where Tim Hortons was saying on the record, Canadians don't want to do these jobs. Well, there's no people that we can find to do these jobs. We need temporary foreign worker programs. You've been lobbying the government on that front. So what happened? Did magically Canada change? Or did you change? Did Tim Hortons change in the strategy?
So I think there's a misperception around the use of temporary foreign workers, and I think we've probably allowed that misperception to exist by not talking to folks like you about it. So today, facts, we have about 4,000 temporary foreign workers across the country out of 110,000 people. It's about 4% of the workforce. Why even use that program at all? If you go back right after COVID, think back to 2021, 2022, people were not coming back to work quickly, like not just in restaurants, in manufacturing, in agriculture, in retail. People weren't going back to work. People didn't want their kids going back to work. But, you saw across Quebec examples of restaurants that, drive-throughs closed at 4 o'clock. People were closing down early at 6 o'clock. The government was pushing to get Canada's economy going again post-COVID. We wanted our restaurants open. Our restaurant owners want to be selling stuff to everybody. And so, we absolutely were there saying we're going to need some short-term solutions to fill these roles that are hard to fill right now because there weren't enough people applying.
So that era is over. You moved on. And it's 4% now. It's going to trend to 0, is what you're saying. But it's done. You're not going to lobby. It's over. Times have changed. You're now reacting to the new reality of Canada.
Yeah, and it is trending down. So our owners' use of the program has dropped by half in the last year and a half. We know there's youth unemployment at 14%. I will say youth is not the total solution to Tim Hortons. Yeah. So, people go through drive-thrus and they sometimes say, "Where are the kids?" Just remember 60% of our business is between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. when students are waking up and going to school. Yeah. It's not the same as, dinner time QSRs where you see a bunch of kids working in there after school. Yeah. So youth is not the total solution, but I would say about 45% of everybody on staff in a Tim Hortons is between the age of 15 and 24 today.
We're with Duncan Fulton. He's Chief Corporate Officer over at Tim Hortons. So I want to ask you about your restaurants, right? And I'm someone, I love my fast food. I know you don't like to use the term fast food, but I love my fast food. I'm on the record. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud that I love my fast food. Okay.
We like to serve it fast. So that's okay.
Well, yeah. And I look at the whole market. I look at all the various chains. It's one of the things I like to do. And I just want to know, for Tim Hortons, what percentage of your stores in Canada are company owned? Like where Tim Hortons owns the whole kit and caboodle, because I want to get back to the standards question. I find the chains that keep a fair amount of their stores in-house have better standards. That's what I've noticed over the years. Where are you guys at Tim Hortons?
I think we have 1, maybe 2 restaurants that are corporately owned.
Wow, that low.
Like 3,998 that are owned by franchisees. And we think that's a good thing. Again, you go back to who's going to run a restaurant better in downtown Montreal? Us sitting in our corporate head office in downtown Toronto, or a local franchisee who's a Quebecer and has grown up and has lived in the province and has put all of the money they've earned into building that restaurant and coming to work every morning.
And I get your point. I get your point. Yeah. The other argument would be when you dot your landscape with corporate-owned stores, that means all of those local owners, they can see the standards they need to achieve, and it helps the whole system overall. I'm surprised it's so low, just 1 or 2.
Look, so we also own Popeyes, Burger King, and Firehouse Subs globally. And so we have the benefit, like in the U.S., we currently own more than we plan to of Burger Kings in the U.S., but like the plans to own a couple of hundred. Yes, it's an opportunity to show what the best is. Sometimes we're not the best at running restaurants either. Mm-hmm. We've had that debate internally saying at the end of the day, a bunch of folks in the office who haven't grown up with their sleeves rolled up in the restaurants giving great service. Where it does sometimes come in handy is when we want to test things. And, sometimes franchisees are like, go test on somebody else and bring it to me when it's perfect, which is good too. But we like the way it's set up in Canada right now.
I have to wrap here, but so let's just talk about the food and the coffee, right? To wrap up here, and the notes I get from listeners here, making the food, the coffee better. What about that? This latest push from Tim Hortons. What are we going to do about the food and the coffee being served?
So I think objectively, it is way better than certainly when I got here 8 years ago. 8 years ago, when you had a breakfast sandwich, the egg in your sandwich had 14 ingredients other than egg. Today, it's a fresh crack egg. Our English muffins, we've taken artificial ingredients out of it and they're more fluffy. Our coffee has water filtration. It's the same beans, by the way, same beans that we've had since 1964, same recipe. We own our own roastery. But now we've unified the taste of that coffee across the entire country with water filtration, the same brewing systems. There's a lot of effort in great product quality. And if you haven't been to Tim's in a while, it's not what you remember from years ago. You should try it again.
I love competition. So I think all of this is just great, whether it's Duncan, and they dropped the donuts from the name. How proud can they be? Whether it's Duncan or it's Tim Hortons, I just love competition. So Duncan, Mr. Fulton, thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can talk again in the future.
Anytime. Thanks so much.
Duncan Fulton, Chief Corporate Officer over at Tim Hortons.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.